Imagine a place where emperors, senators, and Rome's most brilliant minds came to forget the rules, in a whirlwind of unbridled luxury and unspeakable secrets. What if I told you that this once vibrant paradise now lies silent beneath the waves, guarding a geological mystery that has swallowed it up? Welcome to Baia, the Las Vegas of ancient Rome, a name that evokes images of pomp, parties that lasted until dawn, and intrigues that could decide the fate of an empire. But Baia wasn't just this, it was an architectural and engineering masterpiece. A jewel set in the Campanian coast, a place where the land itself provided the foundation for unprecedented luxury. Today, what remains of Baia tells us an incredible story. A ghost town, submerged by the sea, which invites us on a journey through time among the remains of scandalous opulence and a natural phenomenon that wrote the final word on an era. Get ready to discover the melancholic charm and mystery of Baia. Baiae was much more than just a resort for the Roman elite. It was a symbol, an epicenter of power and pleasure so bold that it earned the nickname the Las Vegas of antiquity. Don't just think of gambling or entertainment, but of an atmosphere of total permissiveness, where social conventions were often ignored and luxury reached almost unimaginable heights. It was a shining example of Roman opulence, a place where every whim could be satisfied, and where wealth was manifest in every single detail, from the sumptuous architecture to the most sumptuous banquets. This very nature also made it a place of scandal, where gossip was unleashed about the dissolute behavior of patricians and emperors, and where morality, at least for a few weeks or months, seemed to be a very elastic concept. Imagine its original appearance, a series of imperial villas, not simple houses but real palaces which descended in steps like set jewels along the side of the hill. They were majestic buildings, decorated with vibrant frescoes, intricate mosaics, and precious marbles, which seemed to almost emerge from the sea. The terraces that supported them sloped gently toward the crystalline sea, offering breathtaking views of the Gulf of Naples. Each villa had its own privileged view, its own hanging gardens, and often private access to the thermal springs that made Baia so unique. This was no ordinary place. Baiae was a favorite retreat for prominent figures such as Nero, the emperor known for his eccentricities and passion for art, Hadrian, the philosopher emperor who retreated there for inspiration and rest, and even Julius Caesar, who owned a sumptuous villa there, despite being a figure of far higher moral standards than others. But their stay in Baiae wasn't just about rest. Beneath the veneer of pleasure and relaxation, Baiae was fertile ground for political intrigue. Far from the prying eyes of Rome, the emperors and their advisers could plot alliances, plan military campaigns, or worse, plot against their enemies. It was a place where power games played out between a party and a thermal bath, making Baiae a nerve center of Roman politics as much as of its social life. A whispered secret in a bathhouse or a whispered agreement during a banquet could change the course of history. The luxury of Baia was beyond belief, a boundless opulence that permeated every aspect of life in this exclusive resort. The beating heart of this luxury was its legendary spa as the true attraction of Baia. These were not simple public baths like those found in other Roman cities. These were thermal baths of unique magnificence, fed directly by the natural heat of the earth. The Campi Flegrei region where Baia stood is a volcanic area, and the subsoil seethed with hot springs, steam, and thermal mud. Roman engineers, with their renowned mastery, harnessed this geothermal energy to create an unparalleled thermal complex. The hot water flowed naturally, filling marble pools where Roman citizens could enjoy luxurious baths, natural hydromassages, and steam saunas, all immersed in an atmosphere of pure well being. These baths were not just places of hygiene, but true social centers where discussions, negotiations, and agreements were sealed, enveloped in the healing steam and the scent of perfumed oils. A profusion of architectural and artistic detail adorned every corner of Baia. Colorful mosaics covered the floors and walls, depicting mythological scenes, complex geometric patterns, or delicate depictions of marine life, all crafted with tiny tiles and vibrant colors that still leave us breathless today, even underwater. Marble statues, copies of Greek masterpieces or original Roman works, embellished courtyards, gardens, and nymphaeums, creating an open air museum of sculptural beauty. Every building, every villa, every corner of the baths was a celebration of art and engineering, a testimony to a wealth and aesthetic taste that left nothing to chance. But Baia wasn't just daytime beauty, its nightlife was legendary. The coast came alive with wild parties that began at sunset and often lasted until dawn. They were sumptuous banquets, where the most exotic food and the finest wine flowed in rivers. The laden tables were set on the marble piers that jutted out into the Gulf of Naples, illuminated not only by the moonlight but also by hundreds of torches and oil lamps that created a magical and almost unreal atmosphere. Music and dancing filled the air, mingling with the lapping of the waves. Emperors and courtiers mingled with poets and philosophers, all engaged in one great celebration of life and pleasure. The Gulf of Naples reflected the effervescence of these nights, with the lights of villas and ships multiplying on the water's surface, creating an unforgettable spectacle. Baia was the symbol of a life without restraints, a place where inhibitions were abandoned and every desire, no matter how extravagant, could be fulfilled. And then the twist of fate, a slow and inexorable decline that would transform the Roman paradise into a submerged memory. The cause of this mystery was not a sudden catastrophe, but a slow and powerful natural phenomenon, bradyseism. It's not an earthquake, nor a volcanic eruption in the usual sense, but rather the Earth's own breathing. Imagine that beneath your feet, a few kilometers deep, there's an enormous magma chamber, a bit like a giant balloon filled with gas and molten magma. This chamber sometimes swells, slowly lifting the ground above it, and sometimes deflates, causing it to sink. It is an imperceptible movement day by day, but constant, inexorable, a silent dance between land and sea that marked the doom of Baia. The subsidence process didn't happen overnight. It was a slow and imperceptible subsidence of the land, which began in Roman times but intensified in the following centuries. The villas that once overlooked the sea from their elevated positions began to find their gardens flooded. The marble piers, the scene of wild parties, sank lower and lower until they were completely swallowed up. The baths, where emperors and nobles once relaxed, were gradually submerged by seawater, no longer sweet and healing, but salty and freezing. Over the centuries, the people of Baia had to adapt, rebuilding on higher ground or simply abandoning the lower reaches of the city. It was as if an invisible giant were slowly pulling the blanket down on this overly exuberant city. The consequences of the submersion were dramatic. Entire streets, once resounding with footsteps and carts, were swallowed up by the waters, transformed into underwater canals. Colorful mosaics, which once adorned halls and courtyards, were dragged into the depths, their colored tiles now licked by algae and fish. Statues of times past, effigies of gods and emperors, were brought to eternal silence, their marble faces now fixed in the underwater void, motionless spectators of a world that no longer exists. The relentless sea reclaimed its share, bearing not only buildings but also the secrets and stories those walls had seen and heard. Baia became a ghost town, not through sudden abandonment, but through a slow and deadly embrace with the Mediterranean waters. Today, Baia presents itself to us in a completely new, almost magical guise. No longer the glittering Las Vegas, but a submerged paradise, a ghost town where time stands still and nature has resumed its course. Its streets, its villas, its baths are there, intact in their underwater ruins, an integral part of the marine ecosystem. It's a surreal and fascinating landscape, where fish swim peacefully among the remains of Roman banquets, broken columns, and faded frescoes. Algae sway where once there were hanging gardens, and marine creatures have made the ancient chambers their homes. For history buffs and adventurous tourists, Baia offers a unique and unforgettable experience, an unparalleled journey through time. The area is now part of a protected and accessible underwater archaeological park. It can be explored by snorkeling or, for those with a certification, by scuba diving. This is no ordinary shipwreck, but an entire city waiting to be rediscovered. While diving, you can admire the remains of sumptuous villas, such as the famous Villa dei Pisoni, with its courtyards and pools now underwater, or the imposing, opulent baths, whose arches and vaults are still recognizable despite centuries spent under the sea. You navigate among the still visible mosaics, touch the smooth stones that the emperors once trod, and literally immerse yourself in the secrets hidden by centuries of Roman history. The legacy of Baia is a powerful tale of splendor and fall, a reminder of the fragility of even the greatest civilizations in the face of the force of nature. It's a story that reminds us that nothing is eternal, but that even in ruin there can be profound beauty and a lasting legacy. Baia is a unique place where time seems to stand still, a bridge between the glorious past and the silent present of the abyss. It is a living testimony to the greatness and at the same time the transience of humanity. It is there, waiting to be rediscovered among the waves of the sea, an invitation to reflect on the history, power, and mystery that surrounds ancient civilizations. If this incredible story has fascinated you, don't miss the next video in which we will explore another enigma of the ancient world.